The urban world starts with Babylon and Mesopotamia. Babylon means the gate of God. It's located on the Euphrates River in what is now Iraq, about 70 kilometers south of Baghdad. It was legendary by its size and magnificence as the capital of the Babylonian Empire. The great city of Babylon was famous for its urban culture that highlighted sophisticated arts and crafts, rare products, a multiplicity of material objects introduced through trade, the emergence of new ideas and modes of domination, including a more complex social structure. The Greek historian Herodotus has written at length about the great towers, the extraordinary hanging gardens, the hydraulic pumps to get water from the river, the strong walls surrounding the city and the gates, the 50 or so temples, and Nabucodonosor's palace that was considered to be the most beautiful building of the world. But this marvel of a metropolis was destroyed by the Persian army of Cyrus in 539 BC. The Euphrates River was diverted. Babylon's fate tells us stories of concentration of power, of control over territory, of trade networks, of religious authority, of cultural innovation, of architectural prowesses, of transformation of the environment, of technological innovations, and military urbanism. The Maya civilization in Yucatan, now the southeast part of Mexico and north side of Guatemala, lasted for about 2,000 years. It reached its peak about 300 and 900 AC, where they built a network of cities characterized by amazing religious buildings related to their discovery about astronomy, sophisticated water networks, technological innovations to measure time, and the development of a written language. Some cities were kind of sprawling in Yucatan, with different municipalities. They developed a particular type of design and planning with open public plazas, series of high temples at the center still to be seen today in Calakmul or Palenque. The Maya invented a sort of city-centered empire encompassing numerous small and larger cities. The collapse of the Maya Empire remains a bit of a historical mystery, but some historians suggest the impact of a severe drought and political divisions. Not far away, and with the Aztecs, the famous metropolis of Teotihuacan reached about 100,000 people by 500 AC, with dense urban habitat. Political rivalries and conflicts led it to its abandonment 300 years later. In other words, the Maya city-centered empire tells us stories of public space, of planning around religious buildings, or networks of cities and exchange between them, of sophisticated forms of control and coordination, governance maybe, of urban sprawl, of utilities and climate change. Let's go to Beijing, an ancient city that has known continuous transformation for about 3,000 years. Its name was changed many times, from Ji to Yanjing, Dadu, and then Beiping. Its story is related to wars and conflicts between various dynasties. It first became a walled city, Ji, around the 11th century BC, and as is well known, the famous Ming emperor gave the name Beijing, and in 1403 for its new capital. And there he started the massive construction project of its residence, the world-famous Forbidden City, still to be visited. But Beijing was part of a system of Chinese cities. Historians De Wert mentions, following the emergence of large settlements surrounded by square walls and featuring ceremonial structures in the 3rd millennium BC, the development of an urban system of city-states in the 1st millennium BC, planners and builders could draw on a repertoire of morphological and structural features that would characterize Chinese urban design for centuries to come. Square walls, ritual structures, markets, grids to impose on lived space, and the physical centrality of central and local administrative headquarters are elements of an ideal type that has also come to define the distinctiveness of Chinese cities in a comparative perspective. Beijing tells us about the importance of a state, architecture, culture and administration to understand cities. It stresses not just the organization of public space, but the forms and architecture of great buildings, monuments expressing culture and power. It suggests that the relation between states and cities is always central. The story of Edo, before it became Tokyo, once the largest metropolis in the world, more than 1 billion inhabitants in the 17th century, tells us about the importance of the military in particular. And what about the Greek polis, the city-state, Athens, Thebes or Sparta? Cities as political units, as the expression of citizenship, minus the slaves of course. Hence the importance of a forum as collective actors allied for war in various urban leagues, as colonies organized for trade and commerce. Planning the city, there is ample evidence that the grid, street meetings at right angles, was the dominant form in Greece, in Rome, and also later in South America, before it reached the US, of course. A few centuries later, Rome nearly reached 1 million inhabitants and had to face urban risk, a major fire that destroyed it. Rome was rebuilt with forms of what we would call today public-private partnership. Among public work, because of the pollution of rivers, Rome urban elite constructed hundreds of kilometers of water pipes to bring clean water to the city, something that sounds familiar in Los Angeles or Istanbul today. And what about Cairo, the great city of Egypt, the center of civilization and culture with the old Al-Azhar University, one of the 2 or 3 oldest universities in the world, which is still today a major cultural and religious center. During the heyday of the Arab world, cities like Marrakesh, Fez were major centers. Tunis had more than 100,000 inhabitants. But the great scholar and politician Ibrahim Khaldoun described Cairo as the metropolis of the universe, as much as Constantinople, now Istanbul, was. So, a new urban world with new problems like environment crisis, with protests, urban margin, transport. We may live in a supposedly new urban age, but there is a great deal of issues that are part of a longue durée and that may not be irrelevant to understand cities and metropolises today. Let's emphasize diversity, fragmentation, strangeness, encounters with strangers, the mosaic of varieties, contingent interactions, moving borders, everyday life and events, and the multitude of interactions. That's an essential constituent element of various cities. Some focus on integration, domination, assimilation, social order, control, inequalities, patterns of economic development, structures and systems. That was also to be seen in many former urban worlds. From Babylon, Athens, Rome and later Florence to the present eras, so-called global cities, comes the idea that cities are places where culture flourishes, where civilization reaches its highest points of complexity and sophistication, where the density and diversities of interactions are supposed to stimulate innovations in all sorts of ways, or to free urban inhabitants from traditional cultural constraints. Cities are therefore presented by social scientists, historians and writers in a progressive way as centers of innovation and culture, even if civilization first developed with or beyond cities, as was, for instance, the case of Egypt. By contrast, cities are also portrayed and are places of darkness, chaos, violence, riots, exploitation, marginal life, defiance, destruction, oppression, military destruction. There is an immense literature on the dark side of cities and a long tradition of prophecies about the end of cities. Not so long ago, builder-entrepreneur Henry Ford, from a Ford automobile factory, stated that the city is doomed. We shall solve the problems of the city by leaving the city. Well, the end of a city prophecy is a very old one.